The night before my 65th birthday, my late wife came to me in a dream. Marie leaned over my bed, placed a cold hand on my shoulder, and whispered, "Don't wear the shirt your son gave you." Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I woke up shaking, because I already had it on. The room was dark. I lay there in the flannel Caleb had brought me the night before, wrapped in tissue paper and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The fabric felt soft, expensive, nothing like the work shirts I'd worn for 40 years. But something was wrong. I couldn't shake the dream. Marie's voice had been so clear, so urgent. I'd been alone for 3 years since she passed, and I'd stopped believing in signs. Yet here I was, sweating in the pre-dawn cold, my heart hammering. I reached for the bedside lamp and clicked it on. The shirt looked innocent enough. Dark blue plaid, my size, tags still attached. But my fingers found something odd near the left inner seam, a section that felt stiffer than the rest. I sat up. 40 years restoring furniture teaches you to notice things, the wrong grain, the hidden joint. This stitch was too neat, too deliberate, too separate from the rest of the garment's construction. I got out of bed and walked to my workshop. My hands were steady as I selected a seam ripper and sat down under the bright LED lamp. The thread came away easily, too easily. This wasn't factory stitching. Someone had opened this seam and closed it again. Inside the fold of fabric, I found 2 things. The first was a small RFID chip. The second was smaller, flatter, with a tiny battery attached. A GPS tracker. My son had given me a tracking device for my birthday. I set both items on the workbench and stared at them. Why? I'd raised Caleb alone after Marie got sick, paid for his college, helped him with his first house. He'd always been ambitious, always wanted more, but he was my son. But this wasn't difficult. This was something else. I pulled up my home security app and started scrolling through the logs. 3 weeks ago, front door opened at 11:47 p.m. I'd been asleep. 2 weeks ago, same door, 1:15 a.m. Last week, 10:33 p.m. Each time, the RFID reader had granted access. I checked the playback. The figure was tall, moved confidently, kept his face down, but I recognized the jacket, the walk. Caleb. My son had been entering my house while I slept. I sat down hard. My chest felt tight. For a moment, I couldn't breathe past the sick weight of betrayal. Then I heard a car door slam outside. Caleb's black sedan was parked in my driveway. It was barely 6 in the morning. He climbed out, holding 2 coffee cups and a white bakery bag. I met him at the door. "Morning, Dad," he said. "Thought I'd bring you birthday breakfast." "You're up early," I said. "Couldn't sleep. Wanted to make sure you started the day right." He pushed past me into the kitchen. "How's the shirt? Fits okay?" "Fits fine." "Good." Violet picked it out. I watched him move around my kitchen like he owned it. His voice was easy, casual, but his eyes kept flicking to the shirt I was wearing. "You sleep okay?" he asked. "Like a stone." "Good. You've seemed tired lately. We've been worried." There it was, that word, worried. "I'm fine," I said. "You sure? Maybe you should see someone. Get a checkup. You know, at your age." "I'm 65, Caleb, not 90. He laughed, but it didn't sound right. "Just want to make sure you're taking care of yourself. This house is a lot to manage alone." "I've managed for 3 years." "Right, of course." He poured coffee. "Just saying, if you ever need help, we're here." I took the coffee, but didn't drink it. Caleb checked his watch. "Actually, I should get going. Got a meeting at 8. But hey, dinner tonight?" "I'll think about it." His smile faltered. "You'll think about it?" "Yeah." He stared at me for a moment, and I saw something shift behind his eyes. Something cold. "Okay," he said slowly. "Let me know." He left without another word. I watched through the window as he sat in his car for a full minute, on his phone, texting someone. I poured the coffee down the sink. By noon, I had part of the answer. I called my neighbor, Greta Marlowe. Sharp as a tack. Doesn't suffer fools. "Greta, it's Harold. What do you need? You see anyone around my house late at night recently?" There was a pause. "Why?" I told her. Just enough. The shirt, the tracker, the late-night entries. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I saw Caleb here last Tuesday, around 11. I thought it was odd." "What else?" "There was someone with him. A woman, not Violet." My stomach dropped. "You're sure?" "I'm 72, Harold, not blind." I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat in my workshop and tried to put the pieces together. The tracker, the late-night visits, the concern about my health. That came 3 hours later when my phone rang. The voice was professional, polite, detached. "Mr. Beckett, this is Melissa from Mountain View Medical Clinic. I'm calling to follow up on the consultation your son scheduled." "What consultation?" "The preliminary assessment for guardianship proceedings. He indicated you might be experiencing cognitive difficulties." I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. Caleb wasn't just tracking me. He was building a case to have me declared incompetent, to take control of my property, my accounts, my life. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was clear and blue, the mountains sharp against the horizon. But inside me, something had changed. They wanted war. Fine. They'd get one. I didn't go to dinner that night. Instead, I drove to the county records office and pulled everything I could find on my property, my accounts, and any legal documents filed in my name over the past year. It took 3 hours and cost me $40 in copying fees. But when I walked out, I had a stack of papers that told me exactly how deep this went. Caleb had been busy. 6 months ago, he'd filed a request for a property assessment. Standard procedure if you're planning to claim someone's estate or argue they can't manage their affairs. 4 months ago, he'd contacted my bank to inquire about joint account options and power of attorney forms. 2 months ago, he'd scheduled that consultation with the medical clinic. And 3 weeks ago, right around the time the tracker ended up in my shirt, he'd drafted a petition for emergency guardianship. It hadn't been filed yet, but it was ready. All he needed was evidence that I was declining, proof that I couldn't take care of myself. That's what the tracker was for, to monitor me, to document my movements, to build a narrative. I sat in my truck in the parking lot and read through the guardianship petition. The language was careful, clinical, devastating. It described a man who was forgetful, confused, potentially dangerous to himself, a man who needed intervention. It described someone who wasn't me. But if Caleb got the right doctor to sign off, if he manufactured enough evidence, it wouldn't matter. The court would believe him. And once that happened, I'd lose everything. I drove home as the sun set behind the mountains. The sky was orange and purple, and the air smelled like pine and cold earth. I'd lived in this house for 32 years, built half the furniture myself, raised my son here. Now he wanted to take it away. I parked in the driveway and walked inside. The house was dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I went straight to my workshop and pulled out a notebook. If Caleb wanted evidence, I'd give him evidence, but not the kind he was expecting. I spent the next 2 days setting up. I wasn't a tech expert, but I'd learned enough over the years to manage. I installed 3 hidden cameras in my living room, kitchen, and hallway. Small, wireless, the kind that streamed directly to a cloud server. I bought a voice-activated recorder and put it in my pocket. Then I called Caleb. "Dad, you didn't come to dinner. We were worried." "I need to talk to you," I said. "Can you come by tomorrow?" "Of course. What's wrong?" "Just come by, around 3. "Okay, I'll be there." He showed up at 2:45. Violet was with him. She walked in first, all smiles and perfume, carrying a casserole dish wrapped in foil. "Harold, we brought you leftovers. You have to try this. It's a new recipe." "Thanks," I said. Caleb followed her, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning the room. He was looking for something. I could see it in the way he moved, the way he paused at the doorway to my workshop. "So, what did you want to talk about?" he asked. I gestured to the couch. "Sit down." They exchanged a glance. Then they sat. I stayed standing. "I got a call from a medical clinic," I said. "They mentioned you'd been asking about guardianship." Caleb's face didn't change. "Dad, I can explain." "Don't." He stopped. "I know what you're doing," I said. "The tracker in the shirt, the late-night visits, the petition you've drafted, I know all of it." Violet's smile disappeared. Caleb leaned back, and for the first time, I saw something like fear cross his face. "You're not well," he said quietly. "You've been forgetting things, losing track of time. We're just trying to help." "I'm not forgetting anything." "You are. You just don't realize it." He glanced at Violet. She nodded, and he continued. "Last month, you called me 3 times in one night asking where Mom was. You didn't remember she'd passed. And last week, Greta found you standing in the street in your pajamas at 2 a.m. I stared at him. That's a lie." "It's not? Ask her." "I will." "Dad, this is exactly what we're talking about. You're getting defensive. You're not thinking clearly. We love you. We're trying to protect you." Violet leaned forward. "Harold, we've talked to professionals. They all say the same thing. Early intervention is key. If we wait too long, it'll be harder to help you." "Help me," I repeated. "Yes, by taking my house, my money, my independence." "By making sure you're safe," Caleb said. His voice was calm, patient, like he was talking to a child. "You can't live alone anymore. It's not safe." I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man I'd raised, the boy who used to follow me around the workshop, asking questions, learning how to sand and stain and build, the young man who'd cried at his mother's funeral and promised to take care of me. He was gone. The man sitting in front of me was a stranger. "Get out," I said. Caleb stood. "Dad, get out of my house." "You're proving my point. You're not rational right now. Out." Violet grabbed her purse. Caleb hesitated, then followed her to the door. He turned back, and his expression was something between pity and disgust. "We're filing the petition next week," he said. "I'm sorry it has to be this way, but you're leaving us no choice." They left. I locked the door behind them and stood in the hallway breathing hard. The recorder in my pocket was still running. The cameras had caught everything, but it wasn't enough. I needed more. That night, I called Lyndon Price. Lyndon and I went way back. He'd been a cop for 30 years before retiring, and we'd met when he hired me to restore an antique desk his wife wanted. Smart guy, fair. The kind of man who didn't jump to conclusions. "Harold, long time. How are you?" "Not great," I said. "I need help." I told him everything. The tracker, the guardianship plan, the lies Caleb was spreading. Lyndon listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "That's bad," he said finally. "Real bad. But it's not hopeless. You've got evidence. That's good. But you need more. You need to prove intent." "How?" "Catch them in the act. Get them on record admitting what they're doing, and you need to move fast. If they file that petition, you'll be playing defense. You want to be on offense." "What do I do?" "Document everything. Every conversation, every interaction, and find out who else is involved. Your son didn't come up with this on his own. Someone's helping him." "His wife?" "Probably. But there might be others. A lawyer, a doctor. I'll follow the money, follow the paperwork. And Harold?" "Yeah?" "Be careful. People do crazy things when they're desperate." He hung up. I sat in the dark and thought about what he'd said. Be careful. It was good advice, but I wasn't sure I could take it. The next morning, I drove past Caleb's house. It was a nice place in a new development on the east side of town. Big windows, 2-car garage, lawn like a golf course. I didn't stop. I just slowed down enough to see his car in the driveway and Violet's beside it. Then I kept driving. I had a plan forming in my mind. It wasn't complete yet, but the pieces were coming together. I needed to know what they were planning. I needed to see the documents they'd prepared. And I needed to do it without them knowing. That meant breaking into Caleb's office. The thought should have scared me. I'd never done anything like it in my life. I'd never even gotten a speeding ticket. But I wasn't scared. I was focused. I spent the next 3 days watching Caleb's routine. He left for work at 8, came home at 6. On Thursdays, he stayed late. Some kind of evening meeting or client dinner. Thursday was my window. I drove to his office building at 7:30 when the parking lot was mostly empty. The building was one of those modern glass and steel things with a lobby that looked like a hotel. Security was light. Just a guy at the front desk who barely looked up when I walked in. I'd dressed the part. Khakis, a polo shirt, a clipboard. I looked like a contractor. "Evening," I said to the guard. He nodded. "Help you?" "Just checking the HVAC system on the 3rd floor. Got a call about the temperature." He waved me through. I took the stairs. Caleb's office was on the 3rd floor, near the back. The hallway was empty. I could hear a vacuum cleaner somewhere on the floor above me. His door was locked, but it was a standard pin and tumbler mechanism. I'd picked 100 of them in my workshop when old furniture came in with locked drawers and missing keys. It took me 90 seconds. I slipped inside and closed the door behind me. The office was neat. Too neat. Everything in its place. Computer off. Desk clear except for a lamp and a framed photo of Caleb and Violet on some beach. I didn't waste time. I pulled out a small flashlight and started searching. The filing cabinet was locked, but the key was in the desk drawer, taped under the pencil tray. Amateur. Inside, I found what I was looking for. A folder labeled HB, Guardianship. I pulled it out and started reading. It was worse than I'd thought. Caleb hadn't just drafted a petition. He'd falsified medical records, forged a doctor's signature, created a timeline of incidents that never happened. There were dates, times, descriptions, all of it fiction, and there were financial documents, spreadsheets showing my assets, my accounts, my property value. notes in the margins about liquidation timelines and investment strategies. They'd already planned what they'd do with my money. I took photos of everything with my phone, page after page, then I put the folder back exactly as I'd found it. I was halfway to the door when I heard footsteps in the hallway. I froze. The footsteps stopped outside Caleb's office. A key rattled in the lock. I looked around. No windows, no second exit, just a closet in the corner. I moved. The door opened as I pulled the closet shut. Through the crack, I saw Caleb walk in, followed by Violet. "I don't like this," she was saying. "He knows something." "He doesn't know anything. He's paranoid. He found the tracker." "So what?" "We'll say it was a safety measure. We were worried about him wandering off." "And the clinic?" "They won't talk to him. Patient confidentiality." Violet sat down in the chair across from the desk. "What if he fights us?" "He won't. He's too proud. He'll go quietly, and once the petition is approved, it'll be over." "And if he doesn't go quietly?" Caleb leaned against the desk. "Then we make him." There was a long silence. I didn't breathe. "How?" Violet asked. "I know people. There are ways to handle this. An accident, a fall, something that proves he's not safe on his own." I felt a chill run through me. Violet stood up. "You're serious." "I'm practical. We've come too far to back out now. The house alone is worth $600,000. Add the accounts, the investments. We're talking close to $1 million. That's our future, Violet. That's the life we've been working toward." "Your father." "My father is a stubborn old man who's going to lose everything anyway. We're just making sure it goes to the right people." I heard movement. They were heading for the door. "Let's go," Caleb said. "I just needed to grab those papers. We'll finalize everything tomorrow." The door closed. The lock clicked. I waited 30 seconds, then slipped out of the closet. My heart was hammering. My hands were shaking. But I had what I needed. I left the building the same way I came in. The guard didn't even look up. I drove home through the dark, replaying the conversation in my head. They were planning to hurt me, to stage an accident, to make it look like I was incapable of taking care of myself, and they were doing it for money. I parked in my driveway and sat in the truck for a long time. The house was dark. The mountains were black shapes against the stars. Lyndon had been right. People do crazy things when they are desperate. But so did I. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with the photos from Caleb's office spread out in front of me. Page after page of lies. Forged signatures, financial projections, the blueprint for erasing me from my own life. And that conversation, the cold calculation in Caleb's voice. We make him. At 3 a.m, I called Lyndon. "This better be important," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "It is." I told him what I'd found, what I'd heard. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You recorded this?" I took photos of the documents. The conversation, I didn't have the recorder on me. That's a problem, but the documents help. Forged medical records, falsified evidence, that's fraud. That's criminal. But Harold, you broke into his office. That evidence might not be admissible. I don't care about admissible. I care about stopping them. Then you need to be smart. You can't go to the police with this, not yet. You need leverage. You need something that makes them back off completely. Otherwise, they'll just adjust their plan and come at you another way. What do you suggest? You need to turn the tables, make them think you're the one with the power, make them scared of what you know. And how do I do that? You show them proof, but not all of it, just enough to let them know you're 10 steps ahead, and then you give them a choice, walk away or lose everything. I thought about it. That could work. It's risky. They might panic. They might do something stupid. They're already planning to hurt me. True. He sighed. All right, here's what you do. Set up a meeting, somewhere public, bring copies of the evidence, show them what you have, make it clear that if anything happens to you, everything goes public. Bank statements, medical fraud, all of it. They'll back down. And if they don't, then you go nuclear, police, lawyers, the whole thing, but I don't think it'll come to that. Your son's greedy, but he's not dumb. He won't risk prison. Okay, I said. I'll do it. Be careful, Harold. I'm past careful. I hung up and looked at the clock. 3:15. In a few hours, the sun would rise and I'd put Lyndon's plan into motion. But first, I needed to secure the evidence. I drove to a 24-hour copy shop on the outskirts of town and made duplicates of everything. 3 complete sets. I put one in a safety deposit box at the bank, one in a manila envelope addressed to Lyndon, and one in my truck. Then I went home and sent Caleb a text. We need to talk. Tomorrow, noon. The diner on Route 7. He replied within 5 minutes. Fine. That was it. No questions, no argument. He knew something was coming. The diner was half full when I arrived. Lunch crowd, families, a few truckers. I picked a booth near the back where I could see the door. Caleb showed up at 12:05, alone. He slid into the seat across from me, his face carefully neutral. What's this about? I put the envelope on the table between us. Open it. He stared at me for a moment, then reached for the envelope. He pulled out the stack of photos and started flipping through them. I watched his face change. The color drained from his cheeks. His jaw tightened. Where did you get these? Doesn't matter. You broke into my office. You broke into my house. He set the photos down. His hands were shaking. What do you want? I want you to walk away, cancel the petition, stop spreading lies, disappear from my life. And if I don't, then these go to the police, the medical board, the bank, everyone. He leaned back and laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. You think they'll believe you? You're a senile old man who broke into his son's office. That's what they'll see. Maybe, but they'll also see the forged medical records, the falsified documents, the financial fraud. You really want to take that chance? His smile faded. You're bluffing, he said. Am I? We stared at each other across the table. The diner noise faded into the background, the clink of dishes, the murmur of conversations. It was just me and him. Why are you doing this? I asked. I gave you everything. I worked 60-hour weeks to put you through college. I helped you buy your first house. What did I do to deserve this? You existed, he said flatly. You sat on $1 million while Violet and I scraped by. You hoarded it like it meant something, like you were going to live forever. It's my money. I earned it. And what are you going to do with it? You'll be gone in 10 years. It'll just sit there, wasted. We needed it now. So you decided to take it. We decided to secure our future. That's what people do, Dad. They survive. They plan ahead. They don't wait around for handouts. I felt something twist inside me. Not anger, not even sadness. Just a cold, empty clarity. You're not my son anymore, I said. His face hardened. Maybe I never was. He stood up, grabbed the photos, and ripped them in half. Then he dropped the pieces on the table. Do your worst, he said, but you're going to lose. You've already lost. He walked out. I sat there for a long time, staring at the torn photos. The waitress came by and refilled my coffee. I thanked her automatically. Lyndon's plan hadn't worked. Caleb wasn't scared, he was defiant, which meant I needed a new plan. That night, I got it. Not from Lyndon, from Greta. She knocked on my door at 7, holding a small thumb drive. You need to see this, she said. We went inside. I plugged the drive into my laptop. A video file opened. It was dash cam footage from Greta's car. Date stamped 3 days ago, the street in front of my house, and there, pulling away from the curb, was the pickup truck that had nearly hit me. Greta zoomed in on the license plate. I ran it, she said. Belongs to a guy named Travis Klein, works construction. Want to guess who he's friends with? Caleb, she nodded. They went to high school together. I found his social media, lots of photos with your son. I stared at the screen. The truck, the plate, the proof. This wasn't an accident, I said. No, it wasn't. They tried to hurt me. Looks that way. I looked at her. Why are you helping me? She shrugged. I don't like bullies, and your son's a bully. Always has been. I saw the way he talked to you at Marie's funeral, like you were an inconvenience. I knew then he was rotten. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just make sure you use this. She left. I sat alone with the video, watching it over and over. The truck pulling away, the driver's face hidden, but the connection was there. Caleb had tried to stage an accident, and he'd failed. But he'd try again. I was sure of it. 2 days later, I got confirmation. I was at the hardware store picking up supplies when I saw Violet. She didn't see me. She was in the next aisle, on her phone. I know, she was saying. But we have to move faster. He's on to us. Pause. I don't care how you do it. Just make it look natural. A fall, something quick. Another pause. No, Caleb's too nervous. You handle it. I'll make sure we're out of town when it happens. She hung up and walked away. I stood there, frozen. They weren't backing off. They were accelerating. I left the store without buying anything and drove home. My mind was racing. Lyndon's advice echoed in my head. You need to turn the tables. But how? The answer came to me that night. I'd been thinking like a victim, like someone on the defensive, reacting to their moves. I needed to think like a carpenter. You don't fight a bad joint, you rebuild the structure. And the structure here was leverage. Caleb and Violet wanted my money. They'd committed fraud to get it. They'd planned to hurt me. They'd left a trail. What if I gave them exactly what they wanted? On my terms? I spent the next day putting it together. I called my lawyer and revised my will. Then I called my bank and restructured my accounts. Then I made copies of everything, the forged documents, the dashcam footage, the recordings. And then I sent Caleb one more text. Come to the house tomorrow, 6 p.m., just you, no Violet, no lawyers. If you want your inheritance, you'll be there. He replied immediately. I'll be there. Perfect. The next evening, I set the stage, my workshop, tools arranged on the benches, the evidence laid out on my main work table, cameras hidden in the rafters, everything in its place. Caleb arrived at 5:55. I let him in through the side door. He looked around, taking in the workshop, the tools, the carefully organized space. What's this about? He asked. Sit down. He sat on the stool near the workbench. I stayed standing. I've thought about what you said at the diner, I began. About survival, about planning ahead. And you're right. This money is wasted on me. I'm 65. I'll be gone in 10, 15 years. It should go to someone who can use it. His eyes narrowed. What are you saying? I'm saying you can have it. All of it. The house, the accounts, everything. In exchange for what? You sign a confession. Admit what you did. The tracker, the forged documents, the staged accident, all of it. You sign, and I'll sign over my estate. You're insane. No, I'm practical. You want the money? I want the truth. This way, we both get what we want. He laughed. You think I'm going to sign a confession? That's leverage, Dad. You'll use it to destroy me. Not if you leave me alone. You take the money, you disappear, and we never speak again. I keep the confession in a safe place. Insurance. And if I say no? Then all of this, I gestured to the evidence on the table, goes to the police. Tonight, and you lose everything. He stared at me. I could see the wheels turning. The calculation, the risk versus reward. You're bluffing, he said again. Try me. He stood up. No deal. You're desperate and you're making mistakes. I don't need your confession. I don't need your permission. The petition's already filed. By next week, I'll have legal control anyway. You filed it? This morning. My stomach dropped. Without telling me? I don't need to tell you anything. You're incompetent, remember? That's what the doctor's report says. That's what the court will see. The forged report. Prove it. He started toward the door. I moved to block him. Get out of my way, Dad. No. I said move. Make me. For a moment, I thought he'd walk away, that he'd just leave and let the lawyers handle it. But then he shoved me. Hard. I stumbled back into the workbench. Tools clattered to the floor. You want to play this game? He shouted. Fine, let's play. You think you're so smart. You think you can outsmart me. But you're just a tired old man who should have quit while he was ahead. He shoved me again. This time I caught myself. Stop, I said. Or what? You'll hit me? Go ahead. That'll look great in court. Aggressive, unpredictable. Exactly what I've been saying. He was right. If I fought back, I'd prove his case. But I was done playing by his rules. I grabbed the nearest thing, a wooden dowel I'd been using for a chair repair, and swung it. Not at him. At the wall. The impact was loud. Echoed through the workshop. Caleb froze. You're done, I said quietly. The petition, the lies, all of it. You're done. You don't get to decide that. Yes, I do. The door burst open. Violet stood there, breathing hard, her face flushed. What's going on? Your husband just assaulted me, I said. That's a lie, Caleb snapped. Is it? I pointed to the cameras in the rafters. Because I've got it on video. They both looked up, saw the blinking red lights. Violet went pale. Caleb. Shut up, he hissed. I picked up the envelope from the workbench and handed it to her. Everything's in there. The forged medical records, the financial fraud, the staged accident, and now, assault. You file that petition, and all of this goes public. You'll both go to prison. Violet opened the envelope. Her hands were shaking. She read the first page, then the second. Then she looked at Caleb. You said this was airtight. You said there was no way he could prove anything. He can't. He's bluffing. I'm not bluffing, I said. And you know it. The room went silent. Violet dropped the envelope. I'm out, I'm done. This was your idea, Caleb, your plan. You deal with it. She walked out. Caleb stared after her. Then he turned to me. You just ruined my life, he said. No, you did that yourself. He grabbed the envelope and tore it apart. Papers scattered across the floor. I'm still filing the petition, and I'm going to win. Because at the end of the day, you're just a lonely old man who's going to end up completely by himself. He left. I stood in the workshop, surrounded by torn papers and scattered tools. He was wrong about one thing. I wasn't alone, and I wasn't done. The next morning, I woke to sirens. 2 police cruisers were parked outside, at Caleb's house, not mine. I walked over. Neighbors were gathered on the sidewalk. Greta stood with her arms crossed. What happened? I asked. Domestic disturbance, she said. Someone called it in around midnight. Lots of shouting. The front door was open. An officer was talking to Violet. Her eyes were swollen. Where's Caleb? They took him 20 minutes ago. Handcuffs. My stomach tightened. By noon, Lyndon called with the rest. Caleb was arrested. Assault and battery. Violet filed charges, said he came home drunk, threw things, shoved her into a wall. She's got photos and a medical report. I sat down. Why? He's unraveling. You cornered him. Violet turned on him. He snapped. And with this arrest, no judge will ever approve his guardianship petition. So it's over? For now. But you need to protect yourself. File a restraining order. If he gets out desperate, who knows what he'll try? I will. After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table. Part of me felt relieved. The immediate threat was gone. Caleb was in custody. His petition was finished. But another part of me felt hollow. He was still my son, the boy I raised, and now he was sitting in a cell because he'd tried to ruin me. I didn't know how to feel about that. That afternoon, Violet called. Can I come over? She asked. Her voice was small, brittle. Why? I need to talk to you, please. I hesitated. Then I said, Fine, but I'm recording everything. That's fair. She showed up 30 minutes later. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair pulled back, a fading bruise on her cheek. We sat in the living room. I didn't offer her coffee. I'm sorry, she said, for all of it. The plan, the lies, everything. Why should I believe you? Because I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Caleb, he's not who I thought he was. Last night he... She stopped, her voice breaking. I thought he was going to really hurt me. So you called the police? I had to. I was scared. I watched her, trying to read whether this was real or just another manipulation. What do you want from me? I asked. I want you to know that I'm dropping everything. The petition, the smear campaign. I'm going to tell the court it was all false. That we made it up. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. And because... She looked down at her hands. Because I don't want to end up like him, angry and desperate and willing to hurt people. You were already willing to hurt me. I know, and I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know that it's over. She stood up to leave. I didn't stop her. At the door, she turned back. For what it's worth, Caleb really did love you once, before all of this. He let the money change him. It poisoned everything. Money doesn't poison people, I said. It just shows who they really are. She nodded and left. I watched Greta leave, then called my lawyer. Over the next week, I followed Lyndon's advice, filed a restraining order, submitted the forged documents, recordings, and dashcam footage. Everything was documented and airtight. Caleb was released on bail 3 days later, but by then, the guardianship petition had been dismissed. The judge saw the arrest record and evidence of fraud and threw the case out. It was over, but I didn't feel triumphant, just tired. One night, I sat in my workshop staring at the empty space where Marie's rocking chair once sat. I'd refinished it after she got sick. She used to sit there, teasing me and making me laugh. I missed her, and I missed the man I'd been, the one who trusted easily. But that version of me was gone. I'd let him go to survive. A week later, Greta showed up with a dish of stew. We ate in the kitchen, talking about simple things, the weather, the neighborhood, her grandkids. She never mentioned Caleb. It was nice. When she left, I realized I wasn't alone. I had people who showed up when it mattered. A month passed. Caleb's trial date was set. Violet filed for divorce. Their house went up for sale. I heard nothing from either of them. One afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. Dad. I froze. Caleb. Don't hang up. Please, I'm sorry. For everything. I know it doesn't fix anything. I lost it all, Violet, the house, my job, and I deserve it. Yes, I said. You do. He told me he planned to plead guilty to fraud and assault. His lawyer expected about 2 years. Good, I said. I wish I'd been better, he whispered. So do I. I hung up. It was the last time we spoke. 2 months later, Caleb received 18 months in county jail plus probation. I didn't go. I'd already moved on. That spring, I rebuilt myself. I took on new projects, taught woodworking at the community center, spent time with Greta and Lyndon, reconnected with old friends. The emptiness faded. I wasn't the same man as before, harder, more cautious, but I was still standing. That mattered. One evening, I sat on the porch watching the sunset when Greta joined me. After a quiet stretch, she said, "You did good, Harold." Did I? You survived. You stood up for yourself. That takes guts. Or stubbornness, she laughed. Same thing. We stayed until the stars came out. For the first time in a long while, I felt something like peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. And that was enough. The first letter came 3 weeks into Caleb's sentence. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won. His handwriting was cramped and hurried. Dad, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did and how I became someone I barely recognize. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I understand what I threw away, and I'm sorry. Caleb. I stared at it for a long time, unsure what to say back. Eventually, I folded it and put it in a drawer. A week later, another letter arrived, then another. I read them all but didn't reply. They were repetitions, apologies, regret, promises to change. By the fourth letter, I stopped even reading them and simply filed them with the others. I had more important things to deal with, like the call I got from my bank. Mr. Beckett, this is Julia from First National. I'm calling about some unusual activity on one of your accounts. My stomach dropped. What kind of activity? It looks like someone attempted to access your account remotely. They had your account number and some personal information, but our security system flagged it. We shut it down immediately. When did this happen? Yesterday afternoon. We're investigating, but we wanted to alert you right away. Have you shared your account information with anyone recently? No. All right. We're going to freeze the account temporarily and issue you a new account number. In the meantime, I'd recommend checking your other accounts and changing all your passwords. I hung up and sat down hard. Caleb was in jail. Violet had moved to another state, so who was trying to access my accounts? I called Lyndon. Someone tried to hack my bank account. When? Yesterday. The bank caught it, but whoever it was had my account number and personal info. That's not random. Someone's targeting you specifically. But who? Caleb's locked up? Violet's gone? What about that guy, Travis Klein, the one who tried to run you down? I'd forgotten about him. You think he's involved? I think you need to find out. Let me make some calls. He called back an hour later. Klein's got a record. Petty theft, fraud, did 6 months a few years back, and guess who his cellmate was? Tell me. Guy named Rick Brennan. Works as a low-level hacker. Identity theft, mostly. If someone wanted to get into your accounts, he's the kind of guy they'd hire. So Klein hired him? Maybe. Or someone hired Klein, and Klein brought in Brennan. Either way, you've got a problem. Because if they're still coming after you, they're not going to stop just because Caleb's in jail. What do I do? You lock everything down, change every password, enable two-factor authentication, and you keep your head down until we figure out who's pulling the strings. I did what he said, spent the next 2 days securing every account, every password, every piece of personal information I could think of. But it didn't make me feel safer, because I knew this wasn't over. The break-in happened 3 nights later. I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of breaking glass. My heart jumped into my throat. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. Then I heard footsteps downstairs. I kept my voice low. Someone's in my house. The operator asked for my address. I gave it to her, then crept to the bedroom door and locked it. The footsteps moved through the living room, into the kitchen, then up the stairs. I pressed myself against the wall next to the door, my phone in one hand, a baseball bat in the other. The footsteps stopped outside my bedroom. The doorknob turned, then someone kicked the door. Hard. The frame splintered, but the lock held. Another kick. The door shook. I heard sirens in the distance, getting closer. The footsteps retreated, running down the stairs, out the back door. The sirens grew louder. I stayed where I was, barely breathing, until I heard the officers calling out. "Police! Mr. Beckett, are you home?" "Upstairs," I shouted. They found me standing in the bedroom, shaking, bat in hand. "He's gone," one of them said. "Went out the back. We've got units searching the area." They didn't find him, but they found evidence. Broken glass near the back door, footprints in the flower bed, and on the kitchen counter, a note. "This isn't over." The handwriting was unfamiliar, blocky, impersonal. One of the officers took the note as evidence. The other walked me through what had happened. "Do you have any idea who might have done this?" I told them about Caleb, about the trial, about Travis Klein and Rick Brennan. "We'll look into it," the officer said. "In the meantime, you might want to stay somewhere else for a few days, just until we figure out who's behind this." "This is my home." "I understand, but it's not safe right now." I didn't argue, but I didn't leave either. After the officers left, I sat in the living room with all the lights on, the bat across my lap, and waited for sunrise. The next day, Lyndon showed up. "You look like garbage," he said. "Didn't sleep." I heard. The cops called me, asked if I knew anything about the break-in. "Do you?" "I've got a lead. Travis Klein's been seen around town, hanging out at a bar near the industrial park. I think he's the one who broke in." "Why?" "Because whoever hired him the first time is still paying him, and they want you scared." "Well, it's working." Lyndon sat down across from me. "Here's what I don't get. Caleb's in jail, Violet's gone. So who's still after you?" "I don't know." "We need to find out, because this isn't going to stop until we cut it off at the source." "How do we do that?" "We follow Klein, see who he's talking to, who's paying him. And then what? Then we make them stop." That night, Lyndon and I staked out the bar. It was a dive on the edge of town. Flickering neon sign, cracked parking lot, the kind of place where people went to disappear. We sat in Lyndon's truck across the street, watching the door. At 10:30, Travis Klein walked out. He was younger than I expected, mid-30s, tall, scraggly beard, moved like someone who'd spent time in rough places. He climbed into a beat-up sedan and drove off. We followed. He led us to a motel on the outskirts of town, one of those roadside places with hourly rates and no questions asked. Klein parked and went into room 14. "Stay here," Lyndon said. "Like hell." "Harold, I'm coming." We got out of the truck and walked to the room. Lyndon knocked. "Who is it?" Klein's voice muffled. "Delivery." The door opened a crack. Klein's eyes went wide when he saw me. He tried to slam the door, but Lyndon was faster. He shoved it open and pushed his way inside. Klein stumbled back. "What do you want?" "Answers," Lyndon said. "Who hired you?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "You broke into this man's house last night. You tried to run him down 3 months ago. Someone's paying you. Who?" "I didn't break into anyone's house." Lyndon grabbed him by the collar and shoved him against the wall. "Don't lie to me." All right. Klein's face was red. "It was Violet, Caleb's wife. She hired me." "Violet's gone," I said. "No, she's not. She's here, in town, staying at some rental on the east side." I stared at him. "Why?" "I don't know. She just said she needed me to scare you, make you think twice about testifying or whatever." "Testifying about what?" "How should I know? She didn't tell me. She just paid me $5,000 and said to make your life difficult." Lyndon let him go. "Where's she staying?" "I don't know the address. Somewhere near the school, big white house." "Show us." "No way." Lyndon pulled out his phone. "Fine, I'll call the cops. Tell them about the break-in, about the hit and run. You'll be in a cell by midnight." Klein swore. "Fine, I'll show you. But after that, we're done. I don't want anything to do with this anymore." We followed Klein's car to a quiet neighborhood on the east side of town. He pulled over in front of a white 2-story house with a rental sign in the yard. "That's it," he said through the window. "Now leave me alone." He drove off. Lyndon and I sat in the truck, staring at the house. "Why would she come back?" I asked. "Because she's not done," Lyndon said. "Caleb's in jail. The trial's coming up. Maybe she thinks if she can discredit you, he'll get a lighter sentence. Or maybe she wants revenge. Maybe." We sat there for a long time. Then Lyndon said, "What do you want to do?" I looked at the house, at the lights burning in the windows. "I want to end this," I said. We waited until midnight. Violet's lights went out around 11:30. Lyndon and I sat in his truck down the block. "You sure about this?" he asked. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." We walked to the house. The front door was locked, so we went around back. I picked the simple lock in under a minute. Inside, the place smelled stale. The living room was a mess, pizza boxes, a laptop, scattered papers. I picked one up, my bank statements. Another held my property records. A third listed my daily routines. She'd been watching me for weeks. "Harold," Lyndon called softly from the bedroom doorway. Violet was asleep on the bed, fully clothed. A gun sat on the nightstand. Lyndon grabbed it before she could. She jerked awake. "What are you doing here?" "You were supposed to be gone," I said. "I was. But Caleb called from jail. Said you set him up." "He lied." I showed her the papers. "You hired Travis Klein. You didn't come back to help Caleb. You came back to finish what you started." She laughed bitterly, then sagged. "It wasn't supposed to go this far. Caleb was going to get control of your assets. We needed the money. He lost his job months ago. We were drowning." "So you tried to erase me," I said. "I know. I'm sorry. But it's too late. Caleb's in jail. My life is over." "Good." She flinched. Lyndon lifted the gun. "We're leaving, and we're taking all this evidence. If you're smart, you'll be gone by morning. If not, we hand everything to the police." Violet said nothing, staring at the floor. We left the way we came. In the truck, Lyndon handed me the gun. "What do I do with this?" "Turn it in, along with everything else." I looked at the house one more time. Then we drove away. The next morning, I went to the police station and filed a full report, showed them the surveillance notes, the bank records, the gun. They arrested Violet that afternoon. By evening, the news had spread through town. People I hadn't talked to in years reached out. Some to offer support, some just to gossip. I ignored most of them. Greta came by with dinner. "You doing okay?" "Better than I expected." "Good, because you've earned some peace." "Have I?" "You stood up for yourself. You didn't back down. That's worth something." I wasn't sure I believed her, but I appreciated the thought. That night, I sat in my workshop and looked at the space where I used to keep Marie's rocking chair. I'd moved it into the living room months ago, but the empty spot still felt wrong. I thought about filling it, maybe with a new project, something to keep my hands busy, but I didn't. Some spaces are meant to stay empty. The trial date for Violet was set for 3 months out. Caleb's lawyer tried to argue that her arrest proved his innocence, that she'd been the mastermind all along. The judge didn't buy it. "Your client forged documents, committed fraud, and assaulted his wife," the judge said. "Mrs. Beckett's crimes don't absolve him of his." Caleb's sentence stood. Violet pled guilty to conspiracy, attempted fraud, and unlawful surveillance. She got 2 years. I didn't go to either sentencing. I'd already said everything I needed to say. Instead, I spent that time rebuilding. I refinished an old dining table someone had left on the curb, taught a group of teenagers how to use a lathe at the community center, started going to church again, not because I'd found religion, but because I liked the quiet. Slowly, life started to feel normal again. But normal wasn't the same as before. I was harder now, more cautious. I didn't trust easily, and I didn't forgive quickly. But I was still here, and that was enough. One afternoon, Lyndon stopped by. "Got something for you," he said. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check, $10,000. "What's this?" "Restitution. The court ordered Violet and Caleb to pay back what they stole. This is the first installment." I stared at the check. "I don't want their money." "Take it anyway. You earned it." I set the check on the table. "Thanks." "You're welcome," he paused. "You know, you did good, Harold. A lot of people would have rolled over. Let them win, but you didn't." "I didn't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice. You just made the right one." After he left, I sat with the check for a long time. Then I endorsed it and donated it to the community center. I didn't need their money. I needed my peace of mind, and slowly I was getting it back. Spring came late that year. The snow lingered in the mountains until mid-April, and the mornings were still cold enough to see your breath. But the days were getting longer, and the world was starting to wake up. I spent most of my time in the workshop, working on a custom cabinet for a client in Denver. The work was good, steady. It kept my hands busy and my mind quiet. One morning, Greta knocked on the door. "You've got mail," she said, holding up a small package. "Thanks." She didn't leave, just stood there, looking at me with that sharp-eyed expression she got when she had something to say. "What?" I asked. "You seem better. More like yourself." "I'm working on it." "Good, because I was getting tired of seeing you mope around." I laughed despite myself. "Thanks for the sympathy." "Anytime." She handed me the package. "This came to my house by mistake. Figured I'd bring it over." I looked at the label. It was addressed to me, but there was no return address. After Greta left, I opened it. Inside was a small wooden box, handmade with dovetail joints and a brass clasp. The craftsmanship was good, not professional, but careful. I opened the clasp. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a photograph. The photo was old, faded, and creased. It showed me and Caleb when he was maybe 10 years old. We were standing in front of the workshop, both of us covered in sawdust, grinning at the camera. I didn't remember Marie taking it, but seeing it brought back a flood of memories. I unfolded the paper. Dad, I made this in the workshop here. They let us do projects sometimes. It's not much, but I wanted you to have it. I've been thinking a lot about that photo, about the way things used to be. I know I can't go back. I know I ruined everything, but I wanted you to have something to remember the good parts. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I remember too. Caleb. I set the letter down and stared at the box. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to refuse the gesture, to stay angry. But another part of me, the part that remembered that 10-year-old boy in the photo, couldn't. I put the box on a shelf in the workshop. Didn't display it, didn't hide it, just set it there. A few days later, I got another call from the bank. Mr. Beckett, this is Julia again. I wanted to let you know that we've traced the source of that attempted hack. And? It wasn't external. The access attempt came from within the bank. One of our employees had been bribed to get your information. My stomach dropped. Who? A temp we hired last year. She's been fired and arrested. We're cooperating fully with the investigation. Did she say who bribed her? Not yet, but the detectives are confident they'll get answers soon. I thanked her and hung up. Then I called Lyndon. It's not over, I said. What happened? I told him about the bank employee, the bribe, the ongoing investigation. This goes deeper than Caleb and Violet, I said. Someone else is involved. Who? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the timeline, the break-in, the hacking attempt, the surveillance. It all pointed to someone with resources, someone who knew how to cover their tracks. And then it hit me. Caleb's old business partner. I'd met him once, years ago, a smooth-talking guy named Lawrence Denton. He'd worked with Caleb on a few real estate deals before they'd had a falling out. I pulled up Caleb's old emails, the ones I'd saved from his office break-in, and searched for Denton's name. There, an email from 6 months ago. L, need to talk. Got a plan to solve our cash flow problem. Call me. C. Another one, a week later. L, thanks for the intro. The guy you recommended is perfect. Let's move forward. C. I kept reading. The emails were vague, but the implication was clear. Denton had introduced Caleb to someone who could help with their cash flow problem. And I was willing to bet that someone was Rick Brennan, the hacker. I called Lyndon first thing in the morning. I think I know who's been pulling the strings. I told him about Denton, about the emails. Makes sense, Lyndon said. If Denton was involved from the start, he'd have a vested interest in keeping the plan going, even after Caleb got arrested. So what do? We find him, and we make him talk. It took 2 days to track down Lawrence Denton. He was living in a condo in Boulder, working as a consultant for a tech startup. Clean record, no obvious signs, but I knew better. Lyndon and I showed up at his office unannounced. He was younger than I remembered, mid-40s, expensive suit, practiced smile. Can I help you? He asked. We need to talk about Caleb Beckett, I said. His smile faltered. I haven't spoken to Caleb in over a year. That's a lie. Excuse me? Lyndon stepped forward. We've got emails, phone records. We know you were involved in the guardianship scheme. We know you introduced Caleb to Rick Brennan, and we know you've been trying to finish what Caleb started. Denton's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Then you won't mind if we take this to the police, I said. He stared at us for a long moment. Then he sat down behind his desk. What do you want? He asked quietly. The truth. He laughed, a hollow sound. The truth? Fine. Caleb came to me 6 months ago. Said he needed money. Said his old man was sitting on a fortune and wouldn't help. I told him to take it. Take it how? However he could. I introduced him to Brennan. Helped him set up the fake medical records. I even loaned him the money to hire Travis Klein. Why? Because Caleb owed me. We had a deal that went south years ago, and he walked away clean while I took the fall. I figured if he got his hands on your money, he'd finally pay me back. And when he got arrested, I decided to finish the job myself. I'd already put in the time, the money. I wasn't going to walk away empty-handed. I stared at him. You're talking about stealing from me. I'm talking about getting what I'm owed. You're owed nothing, he shrugged. That's your opinion. Lyndon pulled out his phone. I'm calling the cops. Go ahead, Denton said. But you've got no proof. Those emails, circumstantial, the phone records, could be about anything. Good luck making it stick. I wanted to grab him, to wipe that smug expression off his face. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned across his desk and said quietly, You're right. We might not have enough to put you away. But we've got enough to ruin you. I'll make sure every person in this town knows what you did. Every client, every business partner. Your reputation will be gone. His smile faded. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to back off. Completely. No more hacking attempts. No more surveillance. Nothing. And if I hear so much as a whisper that you're involved in anything to do with me, I'll make sure you regret it. You're threatening me? I'm making a promise. We left. A week later, the bank called again. Mr. Beckett, I wanted to let you know that the investigation is closed. The employee who was bribed has given a full statement. The person who bribed her has been arrested. Who was it? A man named Lawrence Denton. I smiled. Thank you. Denton was arrested that afternoon, charged with conspiracy to commit fraud and bribery. His lawyer tried to get him out on bail, but the judge denied it. That night, I sat on the porch and watched the sun set over the mountains. For the first time in months, I felt something like relief. Summer came fast. The days stretched long and warm, and the workshop smelled like sawdust and varnish. I'd taken on more projects, tables, chairs, a custom bookshelf for the library. It felt good to be busy. One afternoon, I got a letter from the county courthouse. Denton's trial date had been set for early September. The prosecutor wanted me to testify. I agreed. Denton's trial started on a Tuesday. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, curious locals, people who'd heard the story. I sat in the back and watched. The prosecutor laid out the case, the emails, the bribery, the conspiracy. Caleb testified on the third day. He looked small on the stand, nervous. But he told the truth about how Denton had approached him, about the plan to take control of my assets. Denton's lawyer tried to discredit him, called him a liar, but the evidence was too strong. On the fourth day, I testified. The prosecutor asked me to describe what had happened, the tracker, the break-in, the surveillance. I told the story calmly, without emotion. When I finished, the prosecutor asked, Mr. Beckett, how has this experience affected you? It taught me who I can trust, I said, and who I can't. The trial ended a week later. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Denton was sentenced to 5 years. I didn't stay for the sentencing. That night, I sat in my workshop and looked at the cabinet I'd been working on. It was almost finished. I picked up a brush and started the final coat of varnish. The motion was familiar, soothing. Fall came early that year. The leaves turned gold and red by mid-September. I finished the cabinet and delivered it to the client in Denver. She was thrilled. One afternoon, I got a call from the prison. Mr. Beckett, this is Warden Mills. I wanted to inform you that your son has been placed in the infirmary. My chest tightened. What happened? He was in an altercation with another inmate. He's stable, but he's asking for you. I'm not coming. Mr. Beckett? I said I'm not coming. I hung up. But the next morning, I drove to the prison anyway. Caleb was in the infirmary, lying in a narrow bed with a bandage wrapped around his ribs. You came, he said. Don't read too much into it. We sat in silence. Then he said, I'm not asking for forgiveness. Good, because you're not getting it. I know, but I wanted to say thank you for testifying against Denton. I didn't do it for you. I know. I stood to leave, then stopped. Why did you do it? I asked. Really? He was quiet. Then he said, because I was scared of failing. And when you're scared, you do stupid things. That's not an excuse. I know, but it's the truth. I looked at him. I hope you figure it out. I left without another word. Winter came late, but when it arrived, it hit hard. The snow piled up against the house. I spent most of my time in the workshop. One morning, I got a message from Caleb's lawyer. Caleb was being released early, moving to Oregon. I set the message aside. Then I got another call, this one from Violet. Harold, I need to talk to you. Her voice was different, harder. About what? About what you owe us, what you took from us. I don't owe you anything. That's where you're wrong. We lost everything because of you, our marriage, our future, everything. You lost it because of your choices. No, we lost it because you were too selfish to share what you had. And now I'm going to make sure you pay for that. She hung up before I could respond. 2 days later, she showed up at my house. I saw her car pull into the driveway. Violet got out, followed by Caleb. He was thinner than I remembered, pale, but his eyes had that same cold look. I met them at the door. "You need to leave," I said. "Not until we settle this," Violet said. "There's nothing to settle." Caleb stepped forward. "You destroyed our lives. We came to talk, to work something out." "There's nothing to work out. You committed fraud. You got caught. That's the end of it." "It's not the end," Violet said, "because we're not leaving until you make this right." "Make what right?" "Give us what we're owed, half the estate. It's only fair." I stared at them. "You're insane." "We're practical," Caleb said. "You give us the money and we walk away. Everyone wins." "And if I say no?" "Then we make your life very difficult." I looked at my son, at the stranger standing in front of me. "Come inside," I said finally. "Let's talk in the workshop." They followed me through the house. The workshop was warm, the space filled with the smell of wood and oil. Tools lined the benches. The light was good. Violet looked around. "This is where you've been hiding." "I haven't been hiding." "Could have fooled me." I turned to face them. "You want to talk? Fine, let's talk. But first, tell me the truth, all of it, why you really came back." Caleb and Violet exchanged a glance. "We told you," Violet said. "We want what's fair." "No, you want what's mine. There's a difference." "You're splitting hairs," Caleb said. "I'm stating facts." Violet's face hardened. "Give us the money, Harold, or we'll take it." "How? You've already tried everything." "We'll find a way." I looked at them both, at the greed in their eyes, at the desperation. "You're not getting anything from me," I said quietly. "Not a cent, not a signature, nothing." Caleb's jaw tightened. "You're making a mistake." "The only mistake I made was trusting you." He took a step toward me. "You think you've won, but you haven't. You're alone. You're old, and eventually you'll slip. And when you do, we'll be there. Get out of my house. Make me." The workshop went silent. Then Caleb lunged. He was faster than I expected. His shoulder caught me in the chest, driving me back into the workbench. Tools clattered to the floor. Violet screamed something, but I couldn't hear her over the roar in my ears. Caleb grabbed my shirt, pulling me forward. His face was twisted with rage. "You should have helped us when you had the chance." I brought my knee up hard into his stomach. He gasped and stumbled back. I grabbed the nearest thing, a wooden dowel, thick and solid, and swung it. The impact drove him sideways. He crashed into a stack of lumber. Violet ran at me, screaming. I pushed her away. She fell hard against the wall. Caleb was getting up. His face was bleeding. His eyes were wild. "I'm going to finish this," he said. He came at me again. This time, I was ready. I sidestepped, grabbed him by the arm, and used his momentum to throw him off balance. He hit the workbench face first. He turned, swinging wildly. His fist connected with my jaw. Pain exploded through my skull. I tasted copper. But I didn't go down. I grabbed a wooden mallet handle from the bench. Not the metal head, just the smooth hickory shaft. Caleb charged. I swung with everything I had. The handle caught him square in the chest. The force of it lifted him off his feet and drove him backward. He hit the floor hard. The air rushed out of his lungs in a single, desperate wheeze. He lay there, gasping, his eyes wide with shock and pain. I stood over him, the mallet handle still in my hand. "You wanted to take my life," I said, my voice cold and steady. "Now I'm taking yours, the way you planned to take mine." Violet was sobbing in the corner. Caleb stared up at me, unable to speak, unable to move. I dropped the handle. Then I walked to the phone and called the police. "This is Harold Beckett. I need officers at my address. There's been an attempted assault." I hung up and looked at them one last time. Caleb was still on the floor, clutching his chest, his face pale. Violet was pressed against the wall, tears streaming down her face, and I felt nothing. No anger, no regret, no satisfaction, just cold, empty victory. The sirens were already getting closer.